Hey guys, welcome back to the Spector Creative channel. I'm your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, longtime veteran of the toy industry and, like you, also a toy collector myself. One of the things being a toy collector in the toy industry is there's certain toys I've made that I'm extremely proud of from a collector standpoint. That I'm like, wow, I can't believe I got to help work on that, help make that, help complete that collection. And the list is, well, it's lengthy when you look at kind of the totality. Like, for example, getting every single vintage He-Man figure made in the Masters of the Universe Classics line, and the castle, and the giant dragon, and all the beasts. That was awesome. The hoverboard from Back to the Future that we did at Mattel, despite the fact that it didn't float and it didn't look exactly like the, $20,000 handmade prop, it was still pretty freaking awesome, and today it's still one of the toys of my entire career I'm most proud of. Another line, as far as completing it, was Justice League Unlimited. We got to every single card-carrying member of the league, especially with this little 7-pack we released at the end. That was not easy to do, and when it came to JLU, the idea of digging deep into character selection, especially when we got the Master Toy license to DC and not just the license for the show, and could do other characters in that JLU Bruce Timm style. And that meant being able to do creative things like different versions of Batman that weren't on the show, or including things with Batman as accessories that would get you to rebuy Batman. The one in particular I'm most proud of is this one, Batman with the Wonder Pig. Now, I know, it's really not that big a deal that Batman came with a little piggy action figure, but the thing is, this was, well, for lack of a better word, a big, I don't want to call it a fight, but I guess a pushback, because it was not easy to convince the powers to be to include this. Even though it's totally show accurate and it's, completely in canon. This was when Wonder Woman was magically turned into a pig by Cersei. Well, let's just say the people who held the purse strings and held the rights to the characters felt that this created permanence, and they didn't like the idea of a permanent version of Wonder Woman as a pig out there. There's one thing to have in animation, another to have it as a physical toy you can touch, feel, and pose or display. But we got it. Not before we leave the JLU line, I also do have to talk about this pack. This was the one that was part of the Target customized program that included Amanda Waller. It also included General Eiling and, of course, a really cool show-accurate version of Batman. Now, obviously, Batman and a military general are going to sell to little boys and collectors like hotcakes, but Amanda Waller was a different case. Now, obviously, again, she was in the show, and she was the main villain for the second series, or season of JLU, before she kind of became an ally at the end. But doing a heavy-set black woman selling that in the boys' toy aisle, I mean, we're not talking about political correctness, we're not talking about, all that stuff, but to be fair, minority figures do have a hard time selling, simply because it represents a minority. There are fewer, that's what minority means, of that audience. Not that everyone shouldn't play with toys of different ethnicities, but as a fact, that's why Lando hangs there, because there are physically fewer African American or black buyers. And when you're talking about heavy-set female characters, I mean, Mattel tried this with Barbie, and there's a reason they don't do this anymore. It bombed. Not just a heavyset female, but let's just say a female in general. Female figures are very hard to sell in the boys' aisle because boys generate to boy characters that they see themselves as, just as girls see themselves as girl characters. It's why in boy lines you tend to see that token female character for storytelling. It's the exact same way you have Ken in the Barbie line. So getting Amanda Waller at retail, wow, I am so proud that we did that. That was unbelievable. Before we leave JLU entirely, I should also talk about Lobo. Now, you might say, well, wait, Lobo, that's an extremely popular character. He should sell, this way and that. I mean, you could go into Target and Walmart right now and buy the McFarlane DC Multiverse Lobo, no problem. Well, yeah, that's today. Things were very different years ago. Again, even though Lobo appeared on the show, just like the Wonder Pig and just like Amanda Waller, the powers that be did not want Lobo hanging at retail. They were extremely adamant about this. The feeling was that if a child picked up a Lobo figure, then they would pick up a Lobo comic book, and Lobo comic books are not exactly appropriate for young children. So the only way we were able to do this was by offering him online, and that required creating Matty Collector and the entire infrastructure, or selling Lobo at San Diego Comic-Con as we did the 6-inch version. Selling a Lobo at retail was completely off limits at the time, which is why I'm extremely jealous that it's so easy to do this now. I mean, they even have Lobo in kid AIM toys, like little kid AIM toys. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. The amount of energy I fought to get Lobo even sold online was ridiculous. And now this is sitting at retail. So yeah, I am so proud that we found a way to get this to work, because all of our other avenues to releasing Lobo in the animated, kid-friendly style were cut off. All right, let's leave JLU and move on to a different line. Ghostbusters. Somebody get me the Ghostbusters. Walter Peck. Now you might say, okay, Walter Peck, that's just a guy in a suit. I mean, there's lots of guy in suit figures out there, and Walter Peck from Mattel is not the only Walter Peck action figure or toy that's ever been made. I mean, he is one of the main villains from the first movie. The reason I'm so proud of Walter Peck, and, well, part of it is because he was a slot filler. It was supposed to be Dr. Venkman, but we could not get the likeness rights signed off by Bill Murray in time, so we needed to release another figure. So Walter Peck became that figure, and we included the containment unit to try to upsell him. The reason I'm so proud of him is because on the bio on the back, it notes that it is hypothesized he lacks genitalia, which is, of course, from Bill Murray's great quote from the movie where he's riling Dr. Peck, or
Is this
Walter
true?
Peck.
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
So yeah, to this day, I'm like, I cannot believe we got that on package, that we were able to call out that an action figure possibly lacks genitalia. That was, I don't know how that squeaked through. All right, let's move off of Mattel to some of the time I spent at Jakks Pacific, and specifically I was the director over the Star Wars Big Figs line for a couple years. This was around the time of Episode 7. Now, while we did a whole variety of characters throughout the film, it was really hard to do them in collector-friendly deco, especially characters like Boba Fett. We had to remove so much deco from him to get him cost-reduced to ship to retail at that $19.95 price point. Including all of the deco meant he would have never hit the target cost. So that's why he didn't have a gun. That's why he had so much of his, battle damage or whatever you want to call it removed, because he had to ship this assortment of other $20 figures. They all had to cost the same. It's the same reason why the Hasbro Black Series Boba Fett ships as a deluxe figure. It's not the size or the accessories, it's the deco. Deco is so expensive. And doing a figure that's this highly decoed required a deluxe execution for Jakks, just as it does for Hasbro with the Black Series. So when San Diego Comic-Con came around, it was a chance to do Boba Fett with all of his deco, which was really cool because that was something that we wanted to finally do to make up for the lack of deco at retail. But personally, as a Star Wars fan, I was kind of on a little bit of a quest. I wanted to do a Boba Fett that had not been done as an action figure. So we looked at the first appearance Boba Fett, and I'm not talking about this guy with the, the giant dinosaur-like character and Mandalorian's gun. If you're a buff on Boba Fett's history, you know that after the white prototype, there was the parade deco, which was squeezed in before the holiday special and before the Kenner figure. The parade I'm talking about was this one in Marin County, George Lucas's hometown, that was done to promote the film and their hometown hero, where Boba Fett and Darth Vader, along with some Earth cops, sure, why not? Darth Vader needs to be protected after all, and Boba Fett had a very different deco on his armor, specifically noting the colors of his jetpack and the markings on his helmet, which were actually later used by a bunch of clone troopers, which was kind of cool to pick up on that and pay homage to this. This was actually also the deco that inspired and was really used as the Kenner figure, albeit it was a little deco reduced, hence removing the helmet detail. Now, I know this exact deco was done by Medicom as a super deformed, non-articulated figure, but it had never been done as a true action figure with articulation before. And still to this day, it has never appeared in a proper Star Wars line from Hasbro. So, as a big fan of Hasbro's original trilogy figures, I wanted to do a Fett that they had never done. And that's why I was so proud of being able to do this, because it was original, it was different. And I'm still so proud of this one. Hasbro still has never done this deco on Boba Fett. It wasn't, my way of, showing off. It was just my way of saying, hey, we can do this too. So, what did you think? Were these cool toys that you also enjoyed collecting? I was so proud to have gotten to work on them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do share it with others. It's the best way to show support for this channel. I so much appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.